Hey everybody, welcome to Camping with Steve. Trying something new today. I made a whole tent out of Tyvek and camping accessories as well out of Tyvek. That's a house wrap that goes on your house before you put the siding on. So we're gonna assemble that and have a good time tonight. It's a little loud, but what it lacks in stealth makes up for in price. This thing is comically flammable, so I'm trying to keep it as far away from the fire as possible while still being able to get in and out fairly easy. So this'll do. I sewed some of this together, but I'm not a really good seamstress, so for the complicated parts I just used this tuck tape. And this stuff will actually destroy this material trying to pull it off. And I installed little grommets on all the four corners so I can stake this down. I normally don't stake my tent down because the campgrounds are always gravel and they bend, like they hit rocks. But this tent doesn't really have a lot of weight going into it. I cannot get a stake to actually pound through this ground. Just gonna throw some heavy stuff in the corners. My original theory was to use one of these and get that rope over and then nail it into the ground, but this ground is not good for nailing. So I'm going to tie it to that tree and to that tree. Oops. Starting to look a little homey in there. Just need a little more weight on the ends, but my backpack should do that. And we got a shelter. How about that? This thing is made out of 3 pieces. I just made a big long triangular tube. I sewed this edge. This is the only one I sewed. This front panel has 2 zippers. This one is sewn on, and this one is just a stick-on tarp zipper. The back panel I sewed a little screen on. I could put a protective little cover so that if it rains the water doesn't come in, but there's no rain in the forecast and I like to be able to look out the window. The big downside with this setup is the strangler here. So it does have some reflective markings in it. If my flashlight's on I should be able to see it, but let's be real here. Nothing's worth doing unless you're going to overdo it. So I had a couple of these old chairs that the fabric was wrecked, and Tyvek to the rescue. This is all sewn up with some reinforcing parts in it. Footstool, and again, chair. And we just traced the pattern. We took off the old rotten fabric, we traced the pattern, and then we did a makeshift sew it up identical pattern to it, and here we are. You'd be surprised how strong this stuff is. Aside from those tent pegs not sticking into the ground, I'm impressed with how this went up, and I haven't slept in it yet, but I have high hopes. With shelter acquired, it is time for step 2. Today is Canadian Club and ginger ale. Ice cold, still nice and fresh from the store. It did not take me long to set this up. In fact, it was quicker than a normal tent. Love ginger ale. Now, for those of you scratching your heads, wondering what house wrap is, this is what goes on the plywood of a new construction before the siding goes on, and it's a semi-permeable membrane. It keeps the water out, it allows air to kind of move through these micro holes in it, and it's dirt cheap. And I've had this on my house for a couple of years, as have people. If you watch any of those northern off-grid homesteading shows, basically they just leave this on their houses until they can get acquire some siding, that type of thing. They make another product which looks way cooler, and it's not as loud. This stuff, loud. This stuff, it's a lot more copacetic to tent building, except I couldn't find full lengths of it. But this would be a good product to use. I don't know the name of it. I'm not here advertising house wrap. So do your house wrap research, and you too can enjoy a nice, comfortable night in construction debris. Okay, so not a whole lot to see in here. I got this little mattress put in. I'll put a little more weight in the corners because without those pegs, it really sags in on me a little bit. And the ridge line here, I just used a normal little poly rope and I taped that on there with Gorilla Tape. And there's my little pieces of weight on those corners. I'm doing a mediocre job at best, but it's very basic, very fundamental, and I should sleep really good unless the wind blows and it'll make that noise. One oversight was the zipper I got can only be operated from the outside. So we'll see how that works tonight. The cost of material alone for ripstop nylon or polyester and the tent footprint would be hundreds of dollars. I don't know how they make them so cheap for those little cheap tents, but it's impossible pretty much to make a tent for cheap if you're going to a fabric store and buying the stuff. So the Tyvek is a good solution, I think, as far as these could be mass produced for festivals or something. That'd be kind of cool. It should be easy to recycle. It's number 2 high density polyethylene. Time to get a little fire going. Today I'm using this little organic cup of wax and sawdust. It smells like something from an arts and crafts store, but we'll see how functional this really is. You know, you can't go wrong with this. So, I'm getting filthy today. Okay. So it lights up quite good. Boom, burning. So that thing works pretty good. I have no complaints. Getting some looks from people walking past though. It's an unusual setup and I think they're envious. While I still got light, I'm going to start preparing some dinner. I'm going to start cooking up some butter, mushrooms, and garlic. That'll go into the recipe later, but then I'll have this done. One less thing to worry about. Oh no. These ones have got a little bit too much camping spice on them. Tonight's meal is going to be one of these pie iron things. Bread goes in. They're pretty forgiving on an open flame because they're cast iron and they got a lot of mass to them. But we're not using this children's one today. Look at this. Now this is ready for some serious business here. Oh my. It's like a medieval torture device. Using puff pastry today. I don't ever use this, so I don't know how it's going to work out, but it's thawed and I'm just going to roll out a piece that should fit that pie iron nicely. They sound hungry. I'm sure there's enough butter in this stuff that it wouldn't stick, but now this puff pastry should puff up. I don't know how full to fill this, but I'm gonna close it up before these bugs get in there. Whole bunch of roast beef. I did this at home. That deli roast beef is getting expensive, so delicious, seasoned, thinly shaved home roast beef, Swiss cheese for good measure. Let's see what happens. Mosquitoes are coming out. It's mosquito hour. So I'm using this Thermacell. I use it all the time. It basically burns one of these little pads on the top, and that gives off the same stuff that's in a mosquito coil, except way more concentrated. And they're available wherever you can find camping gear. I'm not sponsored by them, but I just love these things, so I have to let everybody know about it. I have to say, I'm a sucker for those little short reels of foods that pop up all the time on social media. And they're always just using the same 10 ingredients and doing weird designs. There's always puff pastry, bacon, cheese, ground beef, tortillas wrapped in cool different ways. So there's no shortage of those. And every time I try to do something new, it usually goes wrong. So we're gonna see how this goes. I do have some cans of ravioli for backup food. That's Camping 101. If you're trying a new recipe that you've never done before, that might not work, have a can of ravioli. Ooh. Now, this is real greasy because puff pastry is 99% butter. All right, let's see. There's no way that this is healthy, even in the slightest, but it is so good. Wow. A meat-filled, crispy pastry. I can get used to this. One factor with these pie iron meals is it takes a while to cook them. That was probably 15 to 17 minutes, and I just made one. So, although it's an unhealthy meal, it's just inconvenient enough that I'm not going to sit down and just eat a whole pile. This Tyvek chair is holding up surprisingly well. Did take some reinforcements when we were first messing around with sewing these things. This stuff needs a few layers if it's going to hold any serious weight. But I'm hanging around kind of close to home right now, taking care of garbage, because my friend that takes care of garbage at the acreage, and he stays there too, and he does carpentry work and stuff. He's on vacation, so that means I'm camping close to home, which is why there's road noise. Pretty much all the campgrounds anywhere relatively close that are larger in size, that might have spots available, they seem to be right along main roads, like an interstate, main highway there. So that's what we're working with for now. But it's always good to get out of the house, sleep outside in the fresh air. Like it makes a world of difference. I'm making another one. Probably about time to break out the flashlight too. I find those dollar store ones are so convenient. The LED floodlight ones. With the soothing sound of the highway, I should have no trouble sleeping tonight. Midnight snack. Just finish this off and get the bed set up. Show you what it's all about in there. So my various articles of sleeping paraphernalia, there's a sleeping bag, pillow, and another little blanket. Seems cozier already. Inside the tent, the first regret is I didn't put something to hang this light up on. That's okay. I got this little log in the corner, and same on the other side, to try and hold these sides out, because in the absence of my tent pegs, this will have to do. So, can't stress this enough. That screen there is pretty crucial. If anybody is actually tempted to do this in real life, to go camping in, you need that screen, because this, you're not going to be able to breathe through it at all. So if it's taped up, you need that ventilation, 100%. Here's the tricky part. The zipper only has the handle on the other side, so this is going to take both my hands. I'll meet up with you when I get this zipped up. So that's the trick. You just gotta pull it up from the outside. It doesn't completely close, but extra ventilation. Very glad for that screen. I can feel the cool air blowing on me right now. Fire extinguisher would be probably the smartest thing to weigh down those corners, because I'm sure this burns. And the tent will not give you privacy. Like, it is opaque, however, the shadows will show through. Like, if you're moving around in here and you've got a light on, it'd be like that tent on Austin Powers, where it projects everything onto that wall. So just behave yourself and you shouldn't have a problem. And I'm gonna hit the hay already in here, and if anything happens in the night interesting, I'll turn the camera on. Night, guys. Good morning. See, it's not even a death trap. I survived just fine. It was a little crinkly, of course, when I touched the sides, but I had pretty good sleep. I'm gonna make some breakfast though. I normally don't start a fire in the morning because you gotta put that out before you go, but there is a water tap close by, so we can make sure this is extinguished. I'm not using that little fire starter contraption from yesterday, because those were $3 per one cupcake, and this was like $6, and I can start many fires with it. Those little fire starter things are a really cool idea, and I can do that at home. I'll just use up my old candle stumps and old crayons, if I had any of that, and you can make your own for basically nothing. A rare treat that I get to have breakfast. I'm normally packing up and trying to get out as fast as I can, but today I can leisurely pack things up and cook a meal. This chair has held up phenomenally. I'm very impressed with this as a solution to an old tattered chair that's losing its functionality. But I should eat breakfast more. I really should. I'm gonna get this all packed up. That's a nice thing. It should take down real quick because it's just 2 knots, and then I bunch it up and throw it in the car. This is one of those pans from those infomercials, that non-stick stuff. It's pretty good. I got it, I think, from a thrift store. And I like it because it's got the metal handle. And it wasn't very expensive, so that makes it perfect for cooking on a campfire. It's not a super fancy pan. I know there's better out there, but for camping, I think this one's pretty good. It's nothing you'd put on a wedding registry or anything, but it does the job for me, and I don't care if it gets a little scorched on the bottom. I know there's that Boy Scout trick, you put dish soap on the bottom, and supposedly it'll just wipe right off, but it's a thrift store pan. I don't care. There's no good way to fold this. Once this stuff gets crinkled up, it's not as loud anymore, but for the first few uses, it's going to be noisy. Campfire wood is pretty expensive, but I got a lot of wood at home, so I'm going to pay it forward for the next fellow that shows up. A little bit of surprise firewood for them. You can't even see that from driving past the road, so it'll be a nice surprise for whoever gets this site. All the water in the cooler is going to work really good for putting this fire out. So to make sure the fire's out, you got to drench it, stir it, drench it again, relight it, and put it out again, and repeat, just to make sure it's good and out, because beautiful parks and we don't want to lose them. So I know that seems ironic for those that try to start fires. Sometimes they can be difficult with wet wood. So it seems unlikely that a little bit of a hot spot would get it going again. But it happens. I've gone to a few campsites. We pulled up, I put some wood on it, and it started up on its own. I didn't even see any smoking. It was just from the embers underneath. So I think we're in good shape here. And about time to hit the road. So much Tyvek left to make a tent city. And I really do enjoy seeing what I can use for camping that's not intended for camping. So, thank you everybody for watching. Please consider subscribing. It's always something different. Sometimes it's stealth camping, sometimes I make a tent out of garbage, or whatever. It's usually weird, but I'd appreciate it if you came along on the journey. Cheers, everybody.